We are 1 week closer to fantasy football and the regular season kicking off, which means we got a lot to unpack. I want to start with you, Adam, talking about Baker Mayfield. Now, last season, he was quite the disappointment. I think we can all agree on that. But it wasn't just him. It was the other stars around him, like Odell Beckham Jr. But as we look ahead to the 2020 season, people have a feeling that Baker Mayfield may want to be a guy that you target in your draft. What are your thoughts?
Oh, I think he's going to be a top 10, maybe a top 5 quarterback. That's right. I said what I said, Kimmy. And I know you're going to bring up old stuff and you want to worry about last year. Listen, if you hold last year against Baker Mayfield, that would be like not casting Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool because he bombed as the Green Lantern. See, that's a mistake. Let the old stuff go because there is reasons for renewed optimism in Cleveland. Obviously, they fixed the offensive line. They got Austin Hooper, and they have Kevin Stefanski, who helped author Kirk Cousins' best season as a pro. And I know, like one of the big reasons why was play action, which is something that Baker Mayfield is already good at. And Kirk Cousins was out there and he was excellent. Now, he wasn't a top fantasy guy, but you have to remember the situation that Cousins was in. Like Mike Zimmer looks at the passing game the same way my dad looks at an iPhone. He uses it only when it's necessary and as a last resort. Kevin Stefanski is going to have a little bit more freedom here. Baker's going to dial up some passes, and he's going to be in a top 5. We're going to be in the top 5. Kimmy, I said what I said. That's what move on.
Move on. It is bottom line. I said what I said. Marcus, do you have any thoughts on this?
Your top 5 is a little spicy for me, but I'll tell you what, I do like him to bounce back this year. I mean, I think the big thing, and Adam pointed it out, is they upgraded the offensive line. That was such a big downfall for Baker in that offense. When things started to break down, he would take off, sometimes maybe a little bit too quick. It would run himself into some bad opportunities and some bad decisions. So if they can protect him, make him feel more comfortable in the pocket, he's got enough weapons. So I do think a huge bounce back is coming. I have not had enough picante sauce today, though, to say top 5.
All right, I agree, but I'm more of a Louisiana hot sauce type of girl. I'm spicy like that. But let's talk about Calvin Ridley in the wide receiver position. Now, he may just be the best ADP value add in fantasy football. If he plays all 16 weeks, he could have upwards of 115 targets. If you're lucky enough to get him on your fantasy roster, what does that mean for you, Marcus?
Well, what it's going to mean is that you're going to have a top 3 wide receiver on your team. That's right. I said what I said. Top 3 for Calvin Ridley. He is this year's Chris Godwin. And, you talked about his great ADP. Probably after people watch this, that's probably going to be blown to bits. But you know what? The Falcons are one of the most pass-heavy offenses in the National Football League. They have been over the past few years. And you look from weeks 11 through 14 last year, Ridley really caught fire. The only receiver in fantasy that was better than him in that stretch, Michael Thomas, who had just a banana season last year. Now there's a really good chance that he should challenge, maybe even surpass Julio Jones for that number 1 wide receiver spot there in Atlanta. There's going to be plenty of opportunity. They play in a division with the Saints. They've got the Bucks. They have teams on their schedule where they're going to have to throw the football to try to stay in the ball game. So Calvin Ridley should see plenty of opportunity, and top 3 seems like almost a lock for him. Yeah, I said what I said.
I said what I said. I miss you guys in these spicy takes. Little sass. We need to all reunite so I can get some of that back into my life. But let's move on to the tight end position. One of my favorites. I went to the tight end university, so I'm all in for all Hawkeye tight ends. That's Noah Fant. That's TJ Hawkinson. Our king George Kittle. But Adam Rank, I hear that you think that there's going to be a new stud tight end on the market, and he just so happens to play for the Dallas Cowboys.
Blake Jarwin. That is the individual. He is going to be a top 10 tight end this season. Listen, Kimmy, not all of us went to Iowa. It's hard to find tight ends, okay? It's like trying to find parking in Los Angeles. It's not always easy. And so this is one of the things that we're looking for. Obviously, the top 3 guys off the board are going to be Kittle. They're going to be Kelsey. It's going to be Ertz. And then you kind of get into a situation where you're like, you just hope that you can find the right player in the right situation. And for me, it is going to be Blake Jarwin. Now, even though last year, they got CeeDee Lamb in the draft is what I should say, and everybody's excited about it. You know what? Go out there. CeeDee Lamb is amazing. But Jason Witten and Randall Cobb are leaving about 180 targets out there. And CeeDee, as great as he is not going to go out and get all those targets. And Jason Witten, 37-year-old Jason Witten was the top red zone target for the Cowboys last season. He was one of the top tight ends. And I understand Mike McCarthy's coming in. There's a new offense, but Blake Jarwin is going to get the opportunity where the tight ends make all their money. Is going to be near the red zone. That is where he's going to excel. So if you miss out on the top 3, and I know, and if you're doing the Scott Fishbowl now, everybody's jumping in on Blake Jarwin, so you're going to have to do it earlier and earlier. but this is a guy that you're going to want to have on your roster. And that's right. I said what I said.
You said what you said. Do you think people should target him early in a draft? What are you feeling there?
Listen, I was in a draft recently where I had already had Zach Ertz, and coming around in about round 10, I'm like, you know what? I should just take him. I would like to have, some fortifications there. You're starting to draft your backups anyways. I was sniped. I couldn't even get him in the 10th round. It's lunacy. Now, this is a tight end heavy league, but still, it is crazy the momentum that is building for this player, but there is good reason for it because he is in a great situation with the Dallas Cowboys.
Now, speaking of great situations, I want to talk about Kenyan Drake. Now, he was a late season standout, right? In weeks 15 and 16, those owners who had them on his roster, they kind of solidified him a spot in the playoffs. But looking forward to the 2020 season, has he solidified himself as an RB1? Marcus, what are your thoughts? Where should people target him? And what do you think his workload's going to be?
Yeah, he absolutely is an RB1. In fact, he's going to be a top 5 running back this year. I said what I said. Kenyan Drake at the back half of last season was phenomenal there in Arizona, right? I mean, he sort of languished in Miami. He didn't get the snaps. He didn't get the touches. Then they send him to Arizona. And you want to talk about winning the breakup. Kenyan Drake won the breakup with the Miami Dolphins. He was on the field most of the time. He averaged right around 80 or so % of the snaps. He was getting the ball a ton in that offense and just had bananas numbers over the back half of the season. So you spread that out over 16 games, there's a real opportunity for Drake to do some big things. There's nobody that's really going to take opportunities from him. Chase Edmonds is there sort of as a nice insurance policy for Arizona, but this is Drake's backfield. Now they add DeAndre Hopkins to help stretch the field. Fewer defenses are going to have to be able to stack the box against Kenyan Drake. Plus, he's going to get plenty of targets. Look, Christian Kirk is probably the number 2 receiver, but I wouldn't be surprised if Drake sort of challenges him for the number of targets they have in that offense. So he's going to get the ball a lot. He's coming off the board in second round right now. I think he could be worth a first round pick in a lot of leagues, but he's going to have a bonkers season out there in Arizona. I said what I said.
You said what you said. Now I'm going to kind of throw myself under the bus here. It's been quarantine. Everyone is, we're a few months in, everyone's going a little stir crazy. And I am the typical millennial who's addicted to the phone. So I am living on Instagram and all of the other apps because what else is there to do? And unless you've been living under a rock, you probably have not missed out on the Cam Newton workout videos that have been all over social media. What does a healthy Cam Newton mean in New England? First, is he starting? And second, if he is or if he isn't, what does that mean? Oh, don't laugh at me because a hater was going to go in the comments like, he's not even starting. And then it'll be
Stidham's not starting.
I said what I said. I said what I said about that. But what does a healthy Cam Newton mean for the Patriots? But more importantly, what does he mean for fantasy football?
Well, I'll tell you what. Yes, he's going to start, right? Like, in the Stardom or Stidham category, it's Cam Newton. That's it. That was a really reach for a joke. But, leave me alone. All right, don't bother me. It's been a long time. Anyway, look, he's going to be in there. Everybody's worried about the wide receivers, right? That, he only has Julian Edelman. And what is N'Keal Harry going to do? And where they don't have Gronk anymore. Let's not pretend like Cam Newton has played with a murderer's row of pass catchers in his career, right? He had Steve Smith early on. Yes, he had Greg Olsen, although the last couple of years Olsen has been kind of banged up. Other than that, he was throwing to the likes of Devin Funchess and Kelvin Benjamin. This isn't exactly a who's who of NFL wide receivers, so don't worry about that. A healthy Cam Newton can still run. He's still a great goal line option there when they get close to the end zone. And I'm going to tell you this, believe it, I said what I said. I'm saying what I'm about to say. He is going to outscore Tom Brady this year because the Bucs won't need Brady to go out and throw for 5,000 yards. Their defense isn't terrible. They just need somebody who's not going to turn the ball over a ton. Brady's not going to do that. Cam Newton's going to have to move the ball for the Patriots. He is going to outscore Tom Brady. I said what I said.
I think all of Patriots Twitter world is going to blow up the second that they hear what you said. Adam, you wanted to jump on to Marcus because you were so fired up too. What do you think about Cam Newton?
I'm a huge fan of this move. I really do believe it. And you're talking about Tom Brady. The good news for Cam Newton, luxury he didn't get in Carolina, you're not allowed to touch the Patriots quarterback. So that should be good news for him right there. You're not allowed to take extra liberties with him like they did when he was in Carolina. Here's the thing. He is already the number 2 running back in New England with James White. And anytime they get near the goal line, we saw last year, they struggled at that a little bit, especially at the end of the year. I think that Cam Newton gets close back to double-digit touchdowns again on the ground. I think he's a better passer than a lot of people are giving him credit for. And I think Bill Belichick has done well enough with quarterbacks not named Tom Brady. If you want to go back to Matt Castle and you want to go back to Garoppolo and you want to go back to Jacoby Brissett, these quarterbacks have still done well with Bill Belichick. And so now you're going to a team who last year was 8-0 at the start of the season. They were averaging well over 20 points per game, and they really slowed down in the second half of the season. I think that Cam Newton comes in there and is like the second coming of Steve Young. When Steve Young came in and replaced Joe Montana in the early 90s, he was an MVP player. These guys are similar in age when they're doing this. So for me, this is going to be a monster bounce back season for Cam Newton. This is precedented in the NFL. We've seen this 6 times where a former MVP has joined a playoff team. That team has made the playoffs. Now, obviously, you don't get fantasy points for playoff appearances, but what that means is that team is good. Cam Newton is going to have an excellent season for the New England Patriots. I said what I said.
I'm going to change the subject just a little bit because it's funny and it's weird, and why not? Because I miss you guys and I just want to tell funny stories. You mentioned Matt Castle. Matt Castle was my godparents' next door neighbor. So I grew up always seeing Matt Castle. And the thing that I knew that Matt Castle was not going to be long for the Kansas City Chiefs and a starting quarterback is that he would walk his dog, but instead of walking his dog, he would drive his golf cart and have the dog on a leash right next to him. And that's when I was like, I don't think he's long for this world.
That's just called being efficient. What are you talking about?
That's smart. That's
but when you're a starting quarterback, I don't quite know if you should be driving a golf cart to walk your dog down the block. But I digress. He's a lovely guy. We said what we said. It's been so much fun to catch up with you guys. As a reminder to all of you watching, for all of your fantasy needs, follow us at NFL Fantasy. If you like what you see on YouTube, like and subscribe down below. And reminder, the all-new fantasy app is ready and available for download. So as you look forward to the fantasy season and the regular season, make sure you download it on your phone, as Marcus is showing, and play with us and join along. So thank you guys. Miss you guys. Hope to see you soon. We said what we said.